Hello, Internet. My name is Roro, and welcome to my channel where I sift through thoughts and ideas while playing video games. I hope everyone's having a good day. Today's video is going to be about something that I've been putting off talking about on this channel, partially because I've been not fully confronting it within myself and not fully admitting to myself the problem that I have. And that's why I need to stop smoking weed. So, quick backstory of my history with weed, marijuana, whatever you want to call it. The first time I ever smoked weed, I was 14 years old. I'm 30 now. Pretty much since I was 16, I was smoking multiple times a week. And by the time I was in college, 18 or so, I was smoking pretty much every day, multiple times a day. There was a time in 2016 where I took a month off of smoking, and there's been maybe like a couple days here and there, maybe like 5 days to a week where I've stopped smoking. But other than that, I've pretty much been smoking every day, multiple times a day for about 12 years. And if you watch my channel, you'll know that I'm a loner. I'm a reclusive type person. And that is the case maybe partially because of my smoking, but I do have a lot of other issues like mental health and stuff like that that lead me to that. But I really do think that people use substances as a means of connection. Usually, someone, in my belief, who's an addict, there's a lack of connection in their life. So they're using substances as a way to connect with something and to feel some sort of connection. And I really do think that it's the stereotypical trope, like Mary Jane has always been there for me. And on a daily basis, unlike other substances, like opiates or, any pretty much any other drug, drinking, anything, you're going to get immediate negative things that happen from the stuff directly. Like you're going to get hungover, you're going to get sick, something like that. But weed doesn't really have that to an extent, unless you're like really smoking a lot. Maybe your throat will hurt, something like that. But you can always do edibles. I guess you can get anxiety if you do too much. But for someone who's an experienced smoker who's been doing it for a long time, I pretty much only get positive things back from getting high off of weed and marijuana. Or so I thought. And I just want to clarify, this isn't me doing some 180 where I hate weed now and I think there's no value. I really do think it's a powerful thing that people should be able to use freely. Luckily, I live in a legal state now, so I don't have to worry about being like considered a criminal for having a plant. But it's also, I think, because of the culture that we live in now, it's so accepted that people really overlook negatives. And this is just my personal experience. And honestly, it's really hard to make this video, man. I got to be honest, because I just don't want to be honest with myself about this. And saying stuff out loud is really going to be difficult, but I got to just push through. So I have really bad health anxiety. And I honestly feel like weed makes it so I don't know what's real and what's not. Or I can't really be sure what's real or what's not. Like if I get into my head about something, I tell myself, like, is this really happening or am I just high and I don't really know what's happening because I don't have a clear view of myself and my body. I don't really have a perfectly in tune perspective on my body and my mind because it's constantly being masked with weed and being high. And yeah, it's definitely like an emotional suppression type thing, like emotions I don't want to confront, or like I have anger issues that I've had to deal with that I've worked through a lot in therapy. And weed is a good way for me to suppress my emotions because I tend to be like an externally emotional person to a fault. And aside from all that, I really try to be positive because I do have an amazing, blessed life, but the world fucking sucks, man. And it's a really good way for me to stay calm and not get too caught up in shit that's happening either in the news, on the internet, or even just around me. Like, I have a hard time letting things go with people, with situations, and weed is such a good way for me to just let things go. And I think that's actually something that I need in my life, but I should be able to do that on my own without weed. And right now, I don't know if I can. I really am not sure. And I'm starting to see weed the same way that I think a lot of people see psychedelics. And I am not condoning the use of psychedelics. Everyone's different. Uh, Definitely don't do it if you feel uncomfortable. Don't, whatever. I'm not condoning anyone do it. But people perceive it as something that you shouldn't do all the time, but it's helpful to sort of break through sometimes, break through the bullshit of the world, see what is really happening in your life, in your mind, assess where you're at, and then take that energy with you when you're not on the substance. And I think that actually applies to weed more than more than a lot of people would think. Because weed is a psychoactive substance. There's no way around it. It alters your mind, it alters your consciousness. So you have to take that into account. And it's similar to the idea of like a lot of people right now are anxious and depressed. Part of it is from, chemical imbalance and family history, all that stuff. But part of it is just because of the world that we live in. And I think that that also applies to weed use, where it's like maybe a lot of people use it because they need it to cope with daily life, but you can't just be high all the time. You know what I mean? Like, I guess you can. Some people do it and they're fine, I guess. But for me personally, I can't be high all the time. But I am high all the time. But I know I can't be. And it's so hard to stop. I guess it's an addiction. I guess it really is an addiction for me. I don't know. I really don't know. My one therapist that I had told me that I was an addict, and one told me that I wasn't an addict. So I don't really know what to believe in that regard, honestly. And some people might think, why? Why have I smoked so much for so long? And I don't have an exact answer for that, but I think there's a lot of different reasons that have sort of added up to lead me to where I'm at now. The first one being, I don't really do any other drugs or drink or anything like that. Like I've dabbled with certain things, but weed has always been the one vice that I have. I grew up seeing addiction with alcohol and other drugs. I've had friends die from drugs. So I think at an early age, I kind of realized like that's not something that I really want to get into. And luckily for me, I say luckily, but I don't really like any of those other substances or drugs. Like I like doing psychedelics every once in a while, but even that I've done them a countable amount of times in my life. I never liked drinking. I don't like the taste of alcohol really. I really don't like the way I feel even when I'm drunk, especially not the next day. I pretty much stopped drinking regularly by the time I was 21. I did most of my drinking when I was in high school and early college, like as a teenager. And now I do as little stuff as possible aside from weed. And it's been that way for a couple of years. But anyway, where is this all leading? It's leading to me needing to stop. And intuitively, I know that I need to stop. I don't know if I need to stop forever. I don't know if I'm going to quit forever and never smoke again. I'm sure I will smoke again. Honestly, I'm probably going to smoke as soon as I'm done recording this, even though I'm tired as fuck. My throat kind of hurts. I might have COVID. I feel kind of sick. I don't really want to smoke, but that's just what I do. It's such a habit for me, and I don't really know what I'm like for an extended period of time without being stoned. And what kind of life is that? I don't know. Maybe I'm being dramatic because I'm in it right now and I'm really feeling it. But like, I'm going to have kids one day. Do I really want my kids to just see me fucking high every single day? No, I don't want that. And I have a weird relationship with the concept of willpower too, where some days I believe that you can will yourself to do things, and some days I believe there's certain things that you just can't will yourself to do. So I feel like there's some sense of strength in restraint from substances. I'm a pretty hedonistic person in general, and I think to an extent I will always be that way. But there's got to be a balance, and I gotta find that balance. I have to find that balance. It's getting to a point where my mind is screaming every day that I am not balanced. There's a lack of balance in my life, and I'm gonna work on that. I'm going to start working on that now, essentially. And weed is just one aspect of that. Next week, I'm going to dive into that more. So if you guys want to hear that, come next week. I put out a new video every Sunday, and I'm starting to stream on Twitch. If you guys want to come check me out there, ask me questions live, hang out. In the early stages of it, working through the kinks, but hope you guys will come check that out, and I hope to see you next week.